Thank you for dialing up our show today. I'm David McGinnis. My wife and partner in crime is Tamara McGinnis, and this is Parenting on Empty, podcast number 22. We would love to hear from you, our listeners. We are very thankful for every one of you, and you're the very reason that we do this podcast. Well, today we are talking about how we manage physical ailments and parenting at the same time. This is the Bad Knees Podcast, and thanks for listening in.
I was just thinking about where you and I both are right now. You have a hurt knee, I have a hurt knee, and it's actually been a pretty long-term thing where it hasn't been just a week or 2 weeks. For me, it's been about a year and a half that I've been struggling, and for you, it's been probably 5 months, 4 months?
Yeah, 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. So it's been a little long term, but I actually started thinking about, every parent, even if they don't have any long-term issues, struggles with what do you do when you're sick? Like especially if you're a single parent, what do you do if you're sick? And your kids still have needs, and honestly, as much as they love you, they frequently don't care so much about your sickness as they do about how am I going to eat?
Right. And we have friends that have debilitating type of diseases. I don't know if disease is the best word, but things like Crohn's, lupus. We're not going to turn this into a medical podcast, but there are things that aren't just seasonal, but it's lifestyle. Cancer.
Yeah. So I thought it wouldn't be a bad idea to talk about together just some things that maybe we struggle with and things that we can give ourselves permission for, and perhaps ways to deal with it as a family and as parents when you feel like you don't have 100% to give.
Yeah. For me, with this knee issue, and there's obviously a degree of pain that's involved in that. Sometimes it's even just difficult to move around, and movement involves pain. And when I am going through real intense times where it flares up, I find that my patience gets shorter.
It's the first thing to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when the kids are wanting to do things and make stuff happen, it's more difficult for me to just say, yeah, let's do it, let's go there, because number one, I don't feel like doing it because it's going to involve more pain. Mm-hmm. But then I just seem to get more irritated. And maybe it's just feeling sorry for myself, thinking, well, why don't you think about me and the condition I'm in?
I think that's part of it. But the other part of it is it takes emotional and physical resources just to be able to deal with the pain and to keep going.
Right.
And to get done the things that you absolutely have to get done. So what do you do? I mean, do you say, oh, that's wrong of me to tell the kids no? Or do you just find ways to say no without getting impatient?
Yeah. I think one of the issues is not being ashamed, might be a good word, or hesitant to communicate your condition.
Yeah, I agree.
With real young children, they're not going to understand or relate to that, but we have a 7-year-old and we have a 15-year-old, and they are very capable of understanding, and they are very capable of compassion. Just recently, we have taken on the responsibility of caring for your mother's dog, little tiny dog. And we're not used to a dog that wants to just run out of the house and then run down the driveway and run away. The dog we have sticks close to home. We have a couple of cats. We don't really care if they run away.
That's not true.
They've been gone for several days at a time, and they come back. Who knows what they're doing? Probably we don't want to know. But anyway, we're just not used to that, having to monitor, where a dog is at all times. Make sure it doesn't run away. Well, just the other day, I failed in that duty and the dog got away. And so we're up and down the road and in the neighborhood, and we're in a very rural area, so we got a long way to go when we're looking through the neighborhood trying to find this dog. And I'm walking up the driveway, and I'm on my way back, and both of our daughters are coming up the driveway, and our oldest says, "You need to go back home. Don't be going up the hill, up the road to the houses up on the top, because your knee isn't in good condition to do that, and Mom's knee isn't feeling good, and she needs to sit down, so you need to just go home and sit down and make sure she's resting too, and we'll go find the dog." So, that was very compassionate.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's actually something that I was thinking about as well recently, that I have a tendency to feel bad anytime I feel like my weakness, and I use weakness in quote marks because it isn't really a weakness, it's just humanity. Everybody gets sick, everybody has issues, and part of being in a family is sharing those issues and sharing responsibility and helping one another and all of that. And I'm real comfortable sharing other people's burdens and responsibilities, but I'm not very comfortable sharing mine with others. And it's difficult for me to just let the kids know it's really hurting right now. I can't do anything. And for some reason, it feels okay to get irritated, but it's not okay to share my weakness. And recently, I've been doing some thinking about it and deciding I need to be more open. And even if it gets to be a bit of a broken record, yes, my knee is hurting again. Can you believe it? It didn't go away. And allow this to do what everybody wants their children to do, and that's to grow into compassion, to grow into empathy, to grow into an understanding of how to feel for another person, and to work around things when they don't pan out the way the kid wants them.
Yeah.
We've had a tendency to say yes to our kids a lot because our philosophy is basically if we can say yes and it doesn't hurt anything, let's do it. But the problem comes when physically or even emotionally, sometimes emotionally you can't handle. You're very fragile, you're vulnerable, and you can't handle another taxing thing on your energy or on your psyche or whatever. That it's okay to say, I'm sort of at the end of my ability to do stuff right now.
Right.
And I just can't. And I could really use your help. And appeal to their better nature.
Yeah.
And trust that they are growing up and that they can understand and that they can have compassion instead of just assuming that they should, which I sometimes do.
Yeah.
And I think, why are they not caring? Well, because they're kids and you have to remind them all the time.
Yeah.
Just like you have to remind them to clean their room or whatever. So being open, communicating about it, and asking for help, which I hate.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about that, asking for help, because I tend to want to just do stuff myself rather than take the time to explain to somebody, especially to a 7-year-old, here's how you do it, and I need your help with this. But I have found myself willing to do that, and sometimes it's just because I don't have the energy to accomplish this or do this task completely by myself. But it's also a good lesson for me, and I'm learning how to ask for help and learning how to involve our daughters in the process of things that I'm trying to accomplish. And one example is I'm helping with the set for the children's theater and building some things. And the other day, our youngest, Michaela, she's with me, and I'm on the stage working on some of the props, constructing them, working with wood, And there are just little things like picking up the scraps of wood that need to be cleaned up. And then there's sawdust because I'm cutting wood and there's sawdust on the floor, and just sweeping that up. And things like that. So I typically would say, well, I'll just do it myself and get the job done. And it's because it took her a long time to do the sweeping and even getting all the sawdust up. And so I think I'm just going to have to do that again. And some of it I did, but for the most part, she helped. She helped in that process. And even with painting, there was some props that needed painting. And I said, she can do that. And I had forgotten to bring painting clothes with her, but you came to the rescue. You stopped by and said, here, let's put a garbage bag over, and got painting protection clothes. And she painted. And it took her a long time to do it, but that's okay because she was helping, and it genuinely was help. It helped move the project forward, and it was less time I was trying to move around, and I was able to get the job done sooner, which meant I could rest sooner.
Yeah, sit down and put your leg up.
Yeah, right.
I think the other part for me that makes me not want to ask is, even though in asking you are making yourself vulnerable, and frequently they respond positively to that, and even though by asking you are training them, you still have to be willing to put up with the response, which isn't always the response you want. If I ask someone finally, because I hate asking, when I finally break down to ask, I really want the response to be, sure, Mom, of course, I'd be happy to help you. And that makes me feel less like I'm imposing on them. If, however, the response is a rolling of the eyes and a pretending to be deaf, so I have to say it twice, or a just kind of fine attitude.
Our kids don't seem to have a problem with expressing exactly what they're thinking.
They don't.
I don't want to do that. Why do I have to do that?
Yes. And I feel like I get a double whammy that, first of all, I had to work so hard to be willing to ask for help.
Right.
And then second of all, now I have to deal with the crappy attitudes. But, I mean, that's what parenting is all about. So I think that our job is to share the problem, the weakness, the difficulty, and to say, we as a family have to share the load, because right now I can't do it all.
Yeah.
So it means the rest of you are going to have to step up to the plate a little bit more. And that isn't always fun. And it does require something more of you. And they're still the age that they are, and they still have all the issues and attitudes that they have just in everyday life. That's not miraculously going to go away. So part of my responsibility is to allow that and to be okay with it and say, you know what, I really don't care, because I just want you to get the job done.
You're right.
And you still have to deal with the attitudes and talk about it. I'm not saying just ignore everything. But usually once they get into the task, the attitude disappears. It's just that initial, oh, do I have to do some more work? Which, let's face it, even as adults, that's kind of how we feel inside.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was going to make the point that when they do, when the kids, even if they do have a bad attitude about helping out, their initial response is complaining or the eye rolling. Once they get into it, and especially when they're done, they feel pretty proud that they've done this job and they've helped do that.
Yes, and my weakness is I tend not to affirm that.
Yeah.
I just kind of look at them and say, really, you just did the minimum and you want me to tell you good job. But what's the hurt? What's the harm in saying good job?
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's petty. Petty, petty, petty. And I'm the parent who should not be petty.
No, I fall under that same category of sometimes not wanting to give the compliments because you had to work so hard just to get them to do something in the first place. It's like, do you really need a compliment after that? But yeah, you're right. What's the harm in that? And I don't need to be petty.
And if we are trying to encourage our kids to continue that behavior, and if we're trying to encourage them to be positive, for us to be petty, it's kind of like parental eye rolling.
Yeah, that's a good phrase. Not complimentary to us.
No,
but it's a good phrase.
Not so much.
One of the areas that I wanted to touch on is just trying to be creative too in the process of how to work around ailments that you have. I'm very thankful that, talking about my knee, it's not debilitating, and so I'm thankful for that. Some people who are involved in parenting, they truly have some debilitating issues that are almost impossible to overcome when you're trying to really be physically involved with your kids or be active. But in my case, it's not so much. So I try to be creative even with some things I do. The other day, Michaela was feeling neglected because her older sister had gone off with a friend and you were away, and so she was just by herself and kind of dropping hints. I'll be outside just sitting on the porch
by myself.
And of course her go-to response is, can I watch something? Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful day, and I said, no, you don't need to be sitting in front of the television set watching something. Let's do something. Let's do something. And I'm thinking, well, my knee still kind of hurts and I really don't want to do anything active. But we played ladder ball, so that's a good thing, because you're just standing there and you throw these little golf balls tied together with a string, and it wraps around a little frame, and you don't really have to move that much. And if you don't want to move at all, it's like horseshoes. If you don't want to move at all, you just have your kid go retrieve the things you threw.
Exactly. Wears them out.
You go get it and bring it back, and we'll throw it again.
And she had such a good time doing
And she
that.
did. She enjoyed it. Now, of course, I did retrieve the balls that I were throwing, so I felt real proud of myself about
Good
that.
job.
They're really highly sportsmanlike parent. But so, there's things you can possibly think through and things you can do.
Yeah, I remember when Mariah was small, and I actually didn't have any knee issues back then, but I was still an older parent, and she wore me out a lot. She was a very active child, and I liked to do physically active games with her a lot because she would get very emotional at night if she didn't have a lot of physical outlet during the day.
Right.
So we ran her, and then she would be tired at night and she would be content and her emotions would all be okay. But I couldn't keep up. And so I found ways for me to sort of cheat and still be involved. Like we did Ring Around the Rosie, only I sat on the ground and she did the circle around me while I held her hand and just circled my hand over my head. And she was totally fine with that. And then when it came to we all fall down, I would just grab her and we would both kind of roll on the ground together. We have a place in our house that kind of looks, you can make it into sort of a track. And so I would say, I want you to do 40 laps around the track. And every time she went by me, I'd slap her hand, 1, and I would count them with her. And then I'd give her jobs like, okay, now you need to skip this time, or high step, or you have to wave your hands in the air. And the whole time she thought we were playing a game, but really I was wearing her out.
Exactly, yeah. And I remember we would go to the park, and she liked to run, and she liked to be timed, which was great.
Yes.
Do you think you can run from here to that tree about 50 yards away? Do you think you can do that in a couple of minutes? Oh, I know I can do it. And I'll time you, and we'll see how fast you go. And she'd take off and come back. Wow, that was pretty good. I think I can do faster. Do you really? I think you can too. Let's do it. And so, running back and forth, and And the good thing is, I'm just standing there with the timer.
Exactly.
We kind of sound lazy, don't we?
We do. But really, it's just giving yourself permission to be human and not to be the perfect. I can do everything and do everything perfectly with my children. We have a pool right now. It's just one of those above ground pools. But Michaela adores the pool, wants to be in it every day as much as she can be. And my knee is very fragile. And so any bumping against it, if I tried to flutter my feet in the water, it would definitely hurt. I don't want to go in the water. I actually have a fear right now of anything. It's like when you break your leg and you have to hold it out in front of you, and everyone that walks by, you're sure they're going to hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of like where I am right now. So I explained it to Michaela when she's asked me, please go in the pool with me, because she likes to have company.
Exactly.
And I said, I just can't. But I will go out and stand next to the pool with you, and I'll even squirt you in the water if you want. I'll watch you do everything, and I'll be right there if you want me to be there. Well, at first she didn't really want that. And I'm feeling bad, thinking, why can't I just get in there with her? It's a good thing. It wears her out, and we like her in the pool, but I just can't. And so I just kept saying, I'm really sorry, but I'd love to watch you. You want to go out there? And she finally decided, okay, it's worth it. I'll go.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, and she wasn't thrilled about it, but I just kept positive about the whole thing. We went out there, and she had a blast, and I had fun, and she squirted me and got me wet, and I still felt very safe as far as my injury goes, and I didn't threaten it. I didn't make it worse so that tomorrow I will pay for it.
Right.
But I was still able to be out there with her, doing something that wore her out and kept her physically active. And so it met both of our needs, because I enjoy being with her.
Right.
It's just there are only certain things that I can do at this point.
Yeah.
So part of it is giving yourself permission. Part of it is being willing to trust your kids with it, and then to take any of the attitudes that come along with it.
Yeah, and like a lot of things, it's being humble.
Yeah.
Being able to humble yourself and say, I can't do it all, and sometimes I can't do anything from a physical standpoint, and coming to terms with that and saying, but that's okay. I can do something else. I can come up with an alternative. And so that's what we do. We try to come up with an alternative. What's a way we can make a connection? What's a way we can involve our children, and a way we can help them become a part of our process, becoming part of our growing, as it were.
And I think if you're a person who has something that is debilitating and that really enables you to have very limited times where you have any energy or any emotional strength to do something with your kids, I think part of what we have to accept is that our kids have been given to us specifically, and that whatever we encounter that debilitates us or limits us, that God provides whatever our kids need to be able to handle that. And it develops something in their character. It helps them to grow, and it may take years for them to fully grow into what they need to grow into to be able to deal with whatever it is that you are going through. But I think for me, it comes down to trust as well. This idea that I trust that God created me and allowed whatever's happening in my life, and He's in control of this situation in our family. And so apparently, whatever I feel weak in, my kids are going to benefit from that. They're going to grow in some way. That whatever inadequacy I have, God's going to develop something in them to compensate, to overcome, to bring the best out in them. And I just have to be willing to be a part of that.